Hey, how's it going? Brian Kane here with the Team Allie, Beth, Allman podcast with Erin Young Garrett. And super excited today, Erin, to talk about a book that we're going to be breaking down over the course of our next 6 podcasts. We're breaking down the book, The Power of Moments by Chip Heath and Dan Heath, and why certain experiences have had extraordinary impact. And it's a book that you recommended and one that I've actually heard from multiple people that I respect. And anytime I'm going to read a new book, I call it the rule of 3. Like I kind of wait on a book until I hear 3 people recommend it, and then it's time for me to dig into it. And I think you might not be the third, you might be like the 4th or 5th person that said this. So it's time. The time is now. The place is here. We're going to rip into the power of moments. Erin, what was it about this book that kind of got you excited to bring this to the Team Allie Beth Allman podcast?
Well, I actually heard somebody speak on it
Mm,
and just give a quick synopsis of it. And it was fascinating because, of course, I applied it to real estate.
mm,
And in real estate, we're constantly having to create trust in a short period of time. And so, that was what I was, sort of wondering if this is a book about, creating trust, or, is it possible to create these moments in somebody's life that, as you were discussing might change the trajectory of it. And
mm.
so that was why I brought it up to you, was to see if you'd read it and knew anything about it.
Yeah, I think the first person that mentioned it to me was Mike Neighbors, who's the women's basketball coach at the University of Arkansas, and I believe won a national championship at the University of Washington. And so here we are. The time is now, and the place is here. As they say, the best time to plant a tree, or maybe to read this book, would have been when I first heard about it 5 years ago. But the second best time to plant a tree is always right now. So if you want to follow along with us as we break down again the power of moments by Chip and Dan Heath, we're going to do a little 6 podcast mini series on this book, and today is going to kind of be just an introduction into the power of moments in our life. And as I look back on the last 43 years of my life, I can think about 3 really distinct moments that changed the trajectory of my life. And then we're going to do the next 5 podcasts. We'll break down chapters 1 and 2, and then we'll look at chapters 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6. Then we'll go into 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12. So a 6-part series here on the power of moments. And, Erin, one of my mentors who I mentioned probably on every Allie Beth Allman podcast episode is Dr. Rob Gilbert. He's the creator of Success Hotline. And if you're listening to this podcast, make sure whatever app you're using, Spotify, Apple, whatever the other one there is that I don't know, you just go search for Success Hotline with Dr. Rob Gilbert. And it's very similar to my Mental Performance Daily podcast, where it's 2 to 3 minutes a day with a concept or an idea. And Dr. Gilbert mentions frequently that the power of one idea and the power of one moment can completely change the trajectory of your life. And he says, as a university professor, his goal is that every class that he teaches creates one of those moments for one of his students. And when I heard him say that, at first it didn't really click. But I think as I've grown and I've gotten more experience and matured, hopefully, now I see what he's saying about every day when you show up as a real estate agent, as a mental performance coach, as a parent. That day is an opportunity for you to create one of those moments for one of your clients. That day is an opportunity for you to experience one of those moments if you're present, if you're where your feet are, if you show up with intention and you show up that best version of you. Talk about those moments, Erin, in the real estate industry, and maybe those moments for yourself where you feel like those moments maybe have changed the trajectory of your life, or the course of your career.
Well, for me personally, you think back, and there are, 3 in particular that stand out that, either one changed my belief system on the way to handle things, or, made me believe in myself in a way that I never realized I could do certain things. And 3, made me relook at where I thought my future was going.
Mm,
And, and that's, you think about that, and then I started applying it to real estate. And it's so important to build trust with your client in a short period of time. And as I mentioned, like you essentially are working with a client for 30, 45 days in an intense pressure situation, because you're usually having to find a house in a short period of time that works for their family. So it's a lot of intense time together. And that's one way to build trust. Or another way you build trust is when you go through something hard with somebody
mm,
and you really have to depend on them. It's sort of why the military is so loyal to their brothers and sisters that they're working with out in the field is because, they're relying on them for their life. And so, that's what I was thinking about with this is creating those. How do you create those moments that either change your own life or change somebody else's life through real estate?
Mm. Yeah, I like the analogy used for the military, and I've studied and worked with some of our special operations warriors. They've often said that trust comes from time and shared adversity. And he's like, if you want to build trust with somebody, proximity is power, meaning you have to be around them, you have to invest time with them, and then the shared adversity when you do difficult things together. And for a lot of people, going through the real estate process, it's stressful, it's big, in the sense of the enormity of the decision that you're making to sell, to buy, to move your family. So that's an adverse process that you can grow with somebody through. So I think those moments that come up in the real estate process and this book are going to help us to help our agents identify where are those moments in our world, and how can we be more intentional about being present for those moments and recognizing those moments and being able to manage our behavior, manage our emotions, and work at our best capacity when those moments arrive in service to other people.
Right. How do you capitalize on them?
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's interesting as we were talking before we started record today, and we talked about the power of a single idea or the power of a single moment. I go back to three that have taken place in my life. It's as the time we're recording this is 2022, and I go back to August 1993. I'm at a general store in Williamstown, Massachusetts, Phillips General Store, and I'm in there with bad intentions of like I want some Swedish fish and I got no money, so I'm gonna go home with some Swedish fish somehow, some way, as a kid, and going into my freshman year of high school. And my high school football coach, John Allen, who I wasn't gonna play high school football, I played in junior high. He sees me and he says, Brian, how come you're not playing football? We started practice last week. And I was like, well, coach, I think I'm going to play fall baseball with a group of guys I was with who, their idea of fall baseball was we play catch and then they go drink beer and play video games, right? Like I wasn't going down a great path. And he's like, no, we need you to play quarterback. We've got the scrimmage tomorrow. I want you to show up. Do you need a ride? And I was like, no, I can get a ride up there, but I'll see you guys there. I show up the next day. Best thing I ever did in my life was play high school football. My high school football coach, John Allen, was a mental performance coach without knowing it, and literally changed the trajectory of my life. If it wasn't for him, I don't know if I even would have graduated high school, right? So that's August 1993, Phillips General Store, where he says, Brian, come to football practice tomorrow. I showed up a week into the season, and then, just put me on the right path. The second time was July 4th, 2000. I walk into a Barnes & Noble in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm between my junior and senior year of college at the University of Vermont. And I'm in Boston with one of my friends from Alaska who wanted to see what, Boston was like on the 4th of July. And he wanted to send a postcard, it's 2000, back to his mom in Alaska. So we walk into Barnes & Noble and I look over and it's across from Fenway Park. There's a baseball section, obviously across from where the Red Sox play. And I go over and there's a book. I got to grab this. There's a book called Heads Up Baseball written by Ken Ravizza and Tom Hansen. And I picked the book off the shelf because it says playing one pitch at a time. And I literally, now the pages are falling out of the book. The pages, everything has been written on. And I remember reading the book and I can't put it down. I remember like if you flip through the book, there's these little black boxes that kind of give you like the Cliff Notes version of the book. And it says, like, you have to be in control of yourself before you can control your performance. If you're the player who everyone has ever told you your whole life, you have to learn how to relax, but you don't know how, this book is for you. Like, that's me. So I buy it. I make my buddy drive back to Burlington, Vermont, 4 hours from Boston. I read the book. I don't even know a computer. I'm a phys ed major. I walk into the library. I send Ken Ravizza an email and say, I want to be a college baseball coach. And if you have a master's in this, I'm in. I go to Cal State Fullerton. I study under him 2002 and 3. I have his face literally tattooed on my heart from when he passed away in 2018. My daughter's name is Carolyn Kendall Kane, named after Ken Ravizza and her middle name. And if it wasn't for one book at a Barnes & Noble July 4th, 2000, I wouldn't have done that. The third moment comes March 2006. I'm a high school athletic director. We're at the Sheridan Hotel, Burlington, Vermont, and there's a high school student athlete leadership conference. So like the 100 schools in Vermont, each school gets to bring 6 kids to this leadership conference. Well, one of the speakers who comes walking on stage is Dr. Rob Gilbert. And for 90 minutes, You laughed, you cried, you danced. My hand cramped because I was taking so many notes. And at the end of his seminar, Power of a moment within a moment, he says, raise a hand if you were inspired today. Poof. Raise a hand if you took more notes in our last 90 minutes than you ever have in any seminar in your life. Poof. He goes, well, I got news for you. You won't do anything with what you learned today. Thank you. And he kind of goes walking off stage, and people are like, well, should we be clapping for this? Like, what's going on, right? Total pattern interrupt, moment within a moment. He comes back to the mic and he goes, you won't do anything with what you do today, what you learned today, unless you change something you do every day. He said, it's about doing a little, a lot, not a lot, a little. He goes, it's not the seminar that changes your life. It's what you do with what you learned in the seminar. I mean, so many moments in that moment, right? And he said, I want everybody today, when you leave, if you do one thing, to call Success Hotline every day. Put the number up on the screen, 973-743-4690. And I called Success Hotline and listened to a 3-minute answering machine, which you can still call today, that he leaves a 3-minute message on around 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. And he's been doing it for almost 11,600 days, started January 22nd, 1992. And I've listened almost every day since March of 2006. And I can say with complete confidence that at least 80% of every word that comes out of my mouth and every strategy I share in mental performance, whether it's in athletes or real estate or parenting, has come from either Heads Up Baseball and Ken Ravizza, or Success Hotline and Dr. Rob Gilbert, or my high school football coach, John Allen. So those were 3 moments that shaped who I am today. 3 moments, 3 days out of 43 years that have, created what I'm doing today in my life. So, I think those moments are there. Those moments exist within all of us. The most important thing is realizing every day can be one of those moments for yourself, or one of those moments for someone that we serve. So we have to show up the best version of us. We have to show up present, and we have to treat every day literally as if it's the most important day of our life, because it is, because it's today, and yesterday's history and tomorrow's a mystery. Who knows what's going to happen? Like, today's the gift. That's why we call it the present. So we got to show up and create those moments. So sorry, Erin, I'm going on a little tangent here, but I just get fired up when we talk about these ideas of moments.
I love it. And if you think about it, like that moment of your coach, really just saying, he gave you no excuse. He said, I'll give you a ride, or offered a ride, offered for you to get there. He was going to make sure you were there. Yeah. And, did he know what he was doing? I think deep down he did, but at the moment you didn't know that your life was about to change. Yeah. And the same thing with Heads Up Baseball book. I bet you a lot of people read that book, in the editing phase and had a lot of edits. And he's sitting there saying, no, I want it written this way. Because this makes you think, and look at, not only has it impacted your life, but quite frankly, I'm about to go buy that book and see it. Yeah. And Dr. Gilbert is absolutely amazing. And, he for sure knew that when he said, when he walked off that stage, that he was going to capture everybody. And sure enough, he did. And then by you promoting, he's captured me too. And I often call the hotline, and it's fantastic mental performance information every day.
Yeah. And I think when we're looking at, like, to try to tie the episode together, right? Because I always like to have a really clear call to action for our listeners. And one of the calls to actions is get into Success Hotline. Every day you can call. You can still call today, 973-743-4690, or wherever you are listening to this podcast, just go listen and dial up Success Hotline on your podcast, and you'll be able to catch them all. I think the other call to action or takeaway is realizing the power of the day, and to go through life with not counting the days, but making the days count, and realizing the value of a day, realizing that all we're given is today, and that if you treat today truly as if it's the most important and biggest day of your life, because it's the only one you can do anything about, that's going to give you a better sense of focus, a better sense of purpose. It's going to create energy for you. And we're all in the energy management game, and I think we spend a lot of time talking about time management, but we're in the energy management game, because if your energy is not on point where it needs to be, it doesn't matter how much time you do or don't have. You're not going to get it done and be the best version of you. So how do we maximize that energy moment to moment to moment throughout the day. Do I eat the donut or not? Do I have the fifth cup of coffee or not? Do I watch Netflix till 10 p.m. or go to bed? Do I exercise in the morning or not? All those little decisions that we make every day, they just keep stacking on top of each other. And as my friend Lindsay Fry, who was an Olympic medalist in women's ice hockey with Team USA, won a silver medal, she says, dripping water hollows out a stone. And that mentality of the small, slow, daily moments after moments after moments will help have made you who you are today as you listen to this, whether you would like to admit it or not. Those moments on top of moments, those decisions on top of decisions have made you who you are, and they will continue to make you who you are. So let's attack them with intention, and let's attack them with purpose, and let's continue to be better today than yesterday and better than tomorrow than today. Erin, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining me again today. It's been a great day to be with Team Allie, Beth. Let's go out there and let's not count the days. Let's make those days count. Thanks, everybody.
You're awesome. Thank you.